And welcome back to the Full Force Combat podcast in collaboration with Undeniable Fight Management and the Hybrid Boxing Organisation. It is Fight Week, baby. How are we doing, lads?
Yeah, doing great, mate.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. I'm excited. My first one this Saturday. Cannot wait.
Oh, you'll be hooked, but we've got Mr. Undeniable here himself. So, Steve, how are we feeling? Fight Week, it's never too great, is it?
No, mate, it's a tough slog at this stage. It's tough for the fighters. Obviously, there's a bit of pressure on to get shit done, so it's tough for the promoters, and trying to keep those positive relationships without pissing anyone off. Basically, is always a tough slog in it. But we're in a fortunate position. Well, I'm in a fortunate position that I both fight and promote, so I get it from both sort of sides, if I'm honest, which helps, I think, politically, shall we say, in dealing with relationships. But yeah, I'm excited, mate. I'm excited. It's always fun watching something that's a bit more extreme than traditional boxing.
Absolutely. And this time, it's the second show, but you're getting to just watch this time and not fight on the card, which is going to be a bit different. So let's just talk about your experience last time. From a fighter's perspective and from a promoter's perspective, what went right and what went wrong from your point of view?
I'm probably hypercritical of everything that I do in life, if I'm honest. So there's a million and one negatives I could probably take from the event, but the positives were that it was fun, it was entertaining, the fights were competitive, everyone got paid, everyone went home happy, everyone went home safe. The safety protocols were in place, so everything from a tick box exercise that we said we would do, we set out to do, we achieved. Obviously, it could have been busier. Some of the fights could have went a little bit longer, if I'm honest, and maybe a little bit of quitting some of the lads without causing too much offence. But yeah, I mean, the real proud moment for me was, I'll take a step back. I said this today, actually. When we set up the HBO, it was never about putting on the best fights that the world has ever seen. It was about increasing the credibility of the sport so that it was safe, and it was competitive. It was a place for everyone, much like boxing's meant to be. You have amateur boxers who have had no bouts going in to have the first amateur bout. We had that on HBO, and that was probably the proudest moment was those amateur bouts where people were going in and fighting hybrid boxing without taking too big of a risk too early in the career.
Absolutely. Now, Alex, you touched on that with Brian, didn't you? Who was 50% of the first ever bout. But one thing that stood out for me there, Steve, which I want you to expand on, Alex, is because you've been in the ring, you've had the 8-ounce gloves on. With the little bit of quitting the lads, what just trying to explain for the first time of those not being in that capacity, the feeling of being hit with it, and albeit they have gone, oh, maybe I don't fancy this. So yeah, you just give us a little bit of insight to that, Alex, and your experience from the last show as well.
Oh, for me, yeah. So I don't know. Obviously, I train in the little gloves. I know what it's like taking a punch in the little gloves. It does not feel nice. So I can imagine the lads training in some bigger gloves and then them taking a heavy body shot or a swift one to the jaw or to the eye socket, and they're like, "Geez, it's just one of those things you don't know how to describe it until it happens to you. It's like a fud. It's like a fud. The smaller gloves. It's not like the padding or where like with boxing gloves, the padding can kind of wave off a little bit. You can kind of get away with it, but in the little gloves, you know what I mean. So I'm not surprised that some of the guys may have not liked it, but it was just better from a fan perspective because we was getting quick finishes. So I didn't mind it from the fan perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of them were really good. I think in terms of quick finishes, the main event from last time, I just want to highlight this. I think the power of Conrad Stadler, that could have been anybody in front of him that night. It could have been a rhinoceros. I don't think there was anybody beating him. And just to note again, Conrad, why have you retired, man? Like off that performance, Steve, I'm sure you second that as well.
Mate, I would say this: every fighter in their mid to late 30s after every fight retires at every level. So I have faith that we will see Conrad once or twice more. He has told me he's adamant that he's retired, mate. But when you're a fighter, That habit dies hard. It's like an addiction.
Yeah, absolutely. But moving on to this card now. The amateur card is absolutely littered. We've got some familiar names on there. Kieran Hyatt and Brian Shatlade is back out. Toby Cross. Zed Williams, Billy Boy Fabian, and Ryan Howard, who was involved in Fight of the Night last time, and familiar face on your scene. Well, two familiar faces on your scene, Shane Robinson and Lewis McCormick. So the first one I want to highlight, boys, is Zach Williams. Is a bit of a monster, really, at heavyweight, isn't he, Steve? Do you think he can be a force to be reckoned with in the hybrid scene?
I think so. I think he's got all the right credentials and everything going for him. If he uses that to his advantage, I think he's got longevity in the sport. It's just making the right decisions and doing the right things, and probably taking. Maybe he needs a bit of a mentor. Maybe I know Alex from Notorious, and Zed have a good relationship. But I think how he looks, how he fights, his background, where he's been, where he's come from, everything has got the makings of a fantastic fighter and a fantastic profile. So I think if this goes his way on Saturday, I would say we'll be looking at a pro debut on one of the big cards or one of the overseas cards early next year, I think.
Yeah, he's got a tough test in front of him, though. Billy's not coming to lie down. He's really coming for war, isn't he? So that's definitely a treat. Alex, which of the other standouts for you? You've spoken to all the lads, so you jump in here and give us a bit of insight, please.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I've got two what spring to mind straight away. A fight what I think is going to be a banger. Sheldon Reed and Chris Leo. Now, when I was speaking to Chris Leo, he was telling me about some of his previous experience, and he's been around. Sheldon's had experience in MMA, so he's already got a feel for the little gloves. He already kind of knows what he's getting into, and with Chris, I've never seen him fight. I've only ever spoke to him on this, but he seemed like a bit of a game kid anyway. So I'm assuming that both lads are just going to go in there and throw down. But when we spoke to Sheldon, I said, "How do you think the fight's going to go down?" And he said, "Parabellum." I was like, "Wow!" I was like, "I've never heard that one before." Yes, lad, let's go. And and the next one what springs to mind for me is Kieran Hyatt and Brian Shacklady. Now, both lads coming off a loss from the first show and trying to get a win back. I mean, obviously Kieran got finished in the first one, and Brian was on the losing end of a decision. Now, I think both guys are really hungry for this one. I did a bit of training with Brian on the Sunday to help him get some prep in. Nothing too heavy, considering it was a bit away from the show, and only like a week away from the show. But yeah, Brian seemed really hungry. Everything I've been seeing on Kieran on Instagram, he seems hungry, ready to go. So I think that one's going to be a bit of a dark horse on the card. I think a lot of people might look at that and go, oh, what's this? But both lads want it, and both lads are hungry for it. So I think
the sleeper fight. That's the sleeper fight, Alex. Most definitely.
Yeah, big time. What about you, Nath?
Well, there's a couple I'm excited for. Obviously, my experience slightly lesser than you guys, but I spoke to Shane Robinson a couple days ago now, and that fight against Lewis McCormick. I mean, that's 2 years in the making. I was going to ask you, Steve, that fight, and knowing that fight has been, sort of something that Lewis has wanted for 2 years. Does that come into your thinking at all? Is it something that just kind of nicely fell into place for you?
No, I mean, I think Lewis has been chasing that fight for a while. But Lewis was coming off a few losses on the unlicensed scene, whereas Shane on the same unlicensed scene was coming off a few wins. So I'm a bit OCD about the matchmaking for our unlicensed show, the WCU show. So I couldn't really justify that fight being made. Whereas in the small gloves, I think a bit more can happen. Truthfully, I think they're quite evenly matched, to be fair. Shane will fight anyone and Lewis will fight anyone. But Lewis has just probably had the tougher fights, I think. On the unlicensed side of things. So I think it's a very evenly matched fight. I must say, the last time I watched the two spar, which was for our show at the end of last year, I would say Shane got the better of that spar, but not by much. So, but Lewis has come with a point to prove. I think Lewis, truthfully, has been going through quite a lot personally as well. So he'll use that as a bit of fire. And Shane's fought, since I've met Shane, he's probably had 15 fights in 18 months or something. So, he's game. So I'm quite excited for that, to be fair. And the good thing about it is, like, both of them really wanted to try the hybrid boxing. And if they had jumped onto an unlicensed hybrid show, they would have been in 4-ounce gloves. I don't think either of them are quite ready for that yet, unless they're fighting each other, of course. But I think the amateur gives them that little taste. in my head, if they draw perfect, they get a rematch in 4 rounds, and they both make a little pro debut before they're done. Potentially, who knows? So yeah, there's definitely something there storyline wise that we can market, and I don't think that'll be the last the last time the two of them fight, if I'm honest.
And do you think it's a testament to yourself and the show you put on the first time round that you do have quite a few people returning back, and this is not their first bout? Guys like Ryan Howard and as Brian Shacklady, Kieran Hyatt, guys that have had the taster and gone, actually, this was, even though it may come out the wrong side, they've gone, you know, I really like this. Let's go do it again. Is that a testament to you guys?
Like I said, I'm always hypercritical on myself, so sometimes I think we could do better by the guys. But I think what they do like is the honesty and the transparency. You know, we're not trying to hide anything from anybody. You know, we're not making false promises of wages and whatever else. We're saying this is how it is. This is what we'll do for you, and this is what the outcome will be. You know, you'll get X, Y, and Z, and we fulfilled those promises. So I think just being honest with fighters gets them to come back. If I'm being completely honest, and it's one of those, mate. We kind of, when you've been around the block in the promoting game, you get to know these guys, and it's almost like I'm friends with 3/4 of the card. So you just have a good relationship with them, and you can trust each other. And I think when you trust the matchmaking in particular, that's when you get fighters coming back. Like I said at the very start of the call, it's not about making the best fights in the world and paying tons of money and then, you know, falling flat on your face. It's about making it safe and giving everyone even matches, and that's how you get credibility in the sport. And that's the overall game, really.
Absolutely. Just to touch on that fight, what you said, Shane and Lewis, I think, to draw the point on emotion, we all know that Shaggy fights with emotion, but a different kind of emotion, keeping a lid on it from day to day, etc. Lewis, he's had his own personal issues and etc. So hopefully this can transpire into a banger. But is there anything else that sticks out for you on the card? A couple that we didn't mention: JJ Smith, Owen Middleton. Owen wants to go to bare knuckle. His dream is to fight in the Trigon. Is there anything else that sticks out on the card for you, Steve, on the amateur card?
Well, I'll give a shout out to JJ, right? This is a mad story, but I met JJ at university about 10 or 12 years ago. Wow. The first person that ever took me on pads in this world was JJ. We played American football together, and I was about 150, 160 key, and he was like, let's go lose some weight. So he took me on the pads way back then, and then he ended up in the Ukraine and got his toe blown off. Didn't see him for years. And then now he's fighting on the card, which is just insane. So, and JJ hasn't got tons of experience, but he's done bare knuckle Muay Thai, so he's game.
Yeah, man.
I think my two, probably, I think you touched on it, Alex. Chris Leo and Sheldon Reed. Yeah. That's the one for me. Sheldon, actually, I approached Sheldon's coach because his coach got up a status, and I think Sheldon's destined for the UFC. And I was like, okay, well, we've got Notorious, we've got Full Force Combat. We can build some social media for him there, and we can give him a pro debut at the same time. And on the flip side of that, Billy's been talking to me for ages about Chris Leo and saying he thinks this is the next big thing. So that was a real simple fight to make. It's a test, really. Yeah. And Dan Morris and Leo, that for me is Leo's wanting to push through his career, and Dan's at the tail end of his career, almost having like a little rejuvenation, I guess, almost in effect. And both of them have no quit in them, and they're both quite technical as well. So I think from a main event perspective, although Leo's a traveling fighter, he's not going to dominate tickets or whatever else. I just think that fight is really cool, and I can't really call it, if I'm honest. A lot of the fights I can't call on the card.
Yeah, I think in terms of the main event itself from the pro card, France versus England, Dan has got a very good amateur background, and he's also fought more people than I've had hot dinners in every single discipline going. Leo has got a very long jab. I'm just wondering if Moz can be quick enough to cut off the angles and switch it up, and he might have to switch stances to try and deal with the likes of Leo. I just think Leo causes a big problem. Size difference as well. It might be different when they get in the ring and they face off, but from my memory, I'm picturing Leo might be a bit bigger on the night than Dan, should we say. But the professional card itself, Joe Williamson, Patrick Berry, that's for a K1 championship bout. That's a championship bout, isn't it? That's both of them are looking to go on to the next level with that. I don't know too much about K1, so I'm not going to give my opinion on that, so to speak. But the professional hybrid card, we do have some more bangers. Neil Rawlinson, Shane Ferguson, Ethan Douglas, Quentin Barraig, if I've pronounced that right, Gareth McCormack, and Jan Slack, Josh Robinson, Andre Lovely, and your banger that used to have mentioned Chris Lee or Sheldon Reed, and of course the bare knuckle marquee fight, Miles Rouke versus Tony McNally. Now, it is absolutely stacked, to be fair. Alex, you and Nathan, you've spoken to a lot of these lads more than me, so just give us your insight, Nathan, first.
Yeah, no, it was interesting. So I spoke to Gareth McCormack, Josh Robinson, Ethan Douglas. Those are the guys I spoke to before this fight, and all are really up for it, as you'd expect. I don't think anyone's ever given a pre-fight interview where they've said, "Nah, I'm dreading it." But Gareth is, you know, I know he's working like really hard at the minute, long days at work, lots of stuff going on in his life. So he's fighting for something bigger than the sport potentially. Josh Robinson has been wanting an opportunity like this for years. He's got a tough test in Andre Lovely, but it's something that he's ready to take on and fight, and Ethan Douglas as well. And obviously an Andre Lovely opponent you know very well, Steve, and I really went past my mind there. And obviously Ethan Douglas has the fight as well against Quentin Varage. Ethan's got that pedigree, that boxing pedigree. He's going to take that into this one. Just quickly on that, because I mean, no one has a better experience in a hybrid boxing fight against Andre Lovely than yourself, Steve. Josh Robinson, Andre Lovely, what are your thoughts into that matchup?
It's a really weird one, mate, because the Andre fight I had to make myself, knowing that I was going to be fighting him. I had no idea who he was. Otherwise, someone just said, "This guy's fought on King of the Streets. Will you fight him?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay." And then he rocks up, and I'm like, "Oh, he looks like a bit of a hard nut." I ended up giving him a lift back to his hotel after we faced off, you know. And then we're talking about the back. So I was like, "He's going to let me box." I said to the lads, "I was like, I just want to get 3 threes in. I've not gone past the first round for quite a while." And then he just tries to buy me out in the first 10 seconds, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna have to actually do something here." But I've known Josh a long time. I've done some sparring with Josh. Josh's coach is one of the best fighters this island has ever seen, I think. So I just Josh probably got too much would be my opinion on that, technical wise. But I don't think Andre's going to sleep. I think that'll either be a nice Josh points victory, or Andre might just pluck a big banger out of somewhere. But I think Josh, if he sticks to his technical ability, should outpoint him.
Yeah. I've got another sleeper on the card, I reckon. I managed to speak with Patrick Burry with his fight with Joe Williamson, and right. So with Patrick, he's obviously had a lot of history in kickboxing, K1, whatever, all the way from the early classes. Well, I'm not sure if it's like Muay Thai where they do like N class and stuff like that, or if it's just kind of amateur and pro or whatnot. But what I do know is about Joel, that Joel's a very game kid. Joel is very game, and he's going to be coming to scrap. And it was kicking off a little bit in the comment section when we posted the Instagram clip. So I reckon Joel's going to be thinking, yeah, this kid said he's going to walk through me. I'm going to show him, because I can just see it now. I can see Joel coming in wanting to smash him and ruin Patrick's night. But also, I've watched a little bit of Patrick's fights, and I can see that Patrick is actually very good. So I think it's going to be very interesting. You got a more technical dude versus a game aggressive, in your face style. And now, and I know obviously it's K1 and it's different to hybrid, but I think it's going to fit the tone of the show so perfectly. And yeah, I think that's another one that, even if a lot of people in the crowd, if they don't watch a lot of kickboxing or K1 or anything like that, I think that's something they'll really appreciate.
Yeah. Sorry, Steve. To be fair, I did say I shouldn't give my opinion on that, but however, I have commentated on Joel twice now, boxing and K1, and he got stopped on the WCU show, but he was just going to keep going. And the kid he was in with, I can't remember the kid's name, but he was fucking good. And I mean,
good in the story. Yeah, very good.
Oh, mate, he could. I was sort of scouting for the hybrid that night. I think, right, he could fight hybrid. He could fight hybrid, because some of them were fucking elite, Alex. I'm telling you. I think now, just to point this out quickly, I think boxing's always had it wrong. The amateurs should be called the novices, and unlicensed should be called the amateurs.
Yeah.
Novice is supposed to become before amateur. So in theory, because some people, like I've heard them call it semi-professional, and it's not like it's wrong, but it's just a bit cringeworthy when you hear it. In it, it's like you don't want it to get said for it to start sticking with people. So just eliminate that straight away, you know. But yeah, back to the card anyway before we drift off. One sleeper fight for me that two I think really up for it is Pinhead and Shane Ferguson. Both of them two boys are really up for it. You spoke to them both, didn't you, Alex?
Yeah, spoke to them both. I mean, Neil, I reckon I've never seen him fight before, but from when I spoke to him a few times. I spoke to him at the media day, spoke to him on a call, but yeah, the way he was talking to me about the things he's going to do to Sheen, I'm actually like, I reckon Neil could be a quite scary guy. You know what I mean? Like, not to say that like he's not anyway, but I reckon once he's got his game face on, you'd think, fucking hell. You know what I mean? Like he's trying to kill me. And with Shane, yeah, I spoke to him. He's had previous a bit of experience in unlicensed hybrid, I'm pretty sure, so he knows how it feels to get it in the face with the gloves, and I'm pretty sure he's done a little bit of bare knuckle as well, so I don't think he's going to be afraid to get hit. So but I'm just a fan of all the fights on the card. Me, everyone I spoke to seems very game for it, and they seem very prepared for what's about to come. So I can't pick one fight on the card which I'm not too keen on, because I'm keen on them all. So it's quite hard to point out what I like more than the others, because I like them all so much. So
that's because Alex, you're so heavily invested in this card, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
But one guy I am heavily invested in over recent weeks, and he's making a good name for himself, and he's got a good story as well, good support network with his parents, in particular his mother, is Miles Roper. He's had good feedback from Mr. Andrew Bakewell, all the boys that he met on the Battle of Bolton show. He did come up short, but he's been, other than that, he was on a good run. And you put a little tribute post on him on Instagram, didn't you, for him, Steve? So let's just talk a little bit about Miles and where you think he can go win or lose on Saturday in his bare knuckle bout.
Yeah, I'll take it a little step back. So I coached Miles once upon a time, and then there was a bit of an awkward situation where someone who's going to fight wanted me to coach them as well. So I was like, well, I'll be fair and transparent, and we had a little chat, and then Miles ended up pulling out of the fight, and then he fucked us around a little bit. Truthfully, he won't be annoyed that I've said that. And then everyone discredited him. Like, no one wanted anything to do with him. And then I talked to him a little bit. He told me about the stuff he'd been through. I kind of felt seen a little bit of me in that, if I'm honest, without saying too much. So I was like, okay, if you're being serious, we'll give it a shot. We'll get you signed to Undeniable, and we'll get you out there, basically. And mate, truthfully, he's done everything's been asked of him. You know, he's jumped on fights last minute. He's fought his first bare knuckle debut was against a former pro MMA lad. Then he's jumped into bad to the bone in about 6 days' notice. You know, he's done everything really that's been asked of him. So he's game. He is game as a badger, to be fair. I think he's training at the State of Flow gym with Pinhead and his crew now. Notorious for a Muay Thai gym, some really good Thai fighters out of there, but also some really technical boxers. I think if Miles doesn't rush it too much, because I think because of his balls, he could be taken as a bare knuckle journeyman at the highest level and kind of kill his career within 12 months. I think if he takes his time and chooses his fights and has 50-50s for the next 12 to 18 months, I think you could probably see him on a BKFC in a competitive bout at a decent level, as opposed to going in as a whipping boy or BKB or any of those bigger platforms. So I think he's just got to choose his path carefully, otherwise he'll get taken advantage of. But speaking specifically for the hybrid this weekend, him and Tony McNally is an interesting fight because they're both identical. They're both really unorthodox. They both swing from the hips. They're both game. They both hit hard. So I would suspect if no one goes to sleep early in that, there's going to be a lot of blood. So it'll be a crowd pleaser to set up the main event, I think, especially in bare knuckle.
Lovely. Absolutely lovely. And just to touch on the main event again, any afterthoughts from you on this main event, Alex? You have seen both of them fight, both different outcomes. We got to see the real technical side of Leo, but we know he can punch as well. We thought we had Ryan stopped on his feet with like 5 seconds to go in his contest. So give us your run through on the main event just before we move on. Yeah,
so just to touch on what you mentioned before about Leo being a little bit bigger. Thinking back to the first show when they faced off in the ring, I don't think he was that much taller than Dan. I just think he might have been a little bit wider, I should say. You know, so
he cuts quite a lot.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But I think in terms of height, there's not really that much difference. And obviously, with Dan Moz, he's going for his 100 boxing fights. He mentioned before he's having a rejuvenation in the whole scene. He's trying to get to his 100 fights from when I spoke to him on the build up to the first one, and I think seeing Dan fight, he was really technically sound. Now with Leo, his muscle, he's got a bit of power to him, but I'd like to see him throw a bit more, to be honest, because one of the biggest takeaways from that fight, it was the jab what won him the fight against Ryan. It was that
There's
clean jab.
nothing wrong with that.
In and out.
Yeah. No,
it
there's
was
nothing.
in and out.
I'm just saying, yeah. Sorry, go on.
No, you're all right, mate. And then, but yeah, so I think it was the jab what won him the fight. And I think if he's going to beat Dan, I think he needs a little bit more than that, to be honest with you, because Dan's been around the block. He's he's got the skills to pay the bills, but But it's a 50-50 fight either way. Like we said, he's a little bit muscular, but it's in the hybrid gloves. All it takes is a shot, and that could be it. So it's a really interesting one, and it's definitely main event worthy, in my opinion. I don't want to give a full prediction because I'm not allowed to do that as a commentator. Not that anyone said it, but it's just an unwritten rule. So I don't want to break it. But it's a genuine 50-50 fight, and it's main event worthy, to say the least. Yeah. And it is the main event, so that makes it even better.
Yeah. I do think this would be my take. Sorry, Dan. Go on.
No, you're right.
I was going to say, so I talk about this quite a lot with regards to boxing transitioning to hybrid and bare knuckle. A lot of people say this, bare knuckle and hybrid is not boxing, and it's not. Yeah, but there's a lot you can take away. The best fighters that transition from boxing are those that can use their feet to cover the distance without taking shots. Because if you're one of those that plods along with a double or a high guard, walking into shots in boxing, you're not going to be able to transition into bare knuckle and hybrid. Dan Moz can use his feet to get in and out really, really well. And I think that'll be the big difference between him and Rai, who Leo's faced before, whereas Rai would load up on a shot and then try to bring his feet after. Dan creeps forward, lets his hands go, gets out, and then comes back in again. So I think Dan's got a really nice style to transition to hybrid and bare knuckle if he really wanted to. It's just Leo's not been tested by someone that can use their feet as well as Dan. So it's interesting because I think Dan or Leo's really technical as well from a boxing perspective. But I think Dan's going to cause Leo a lot of problems with his speed. It's just whether Dan can stick to using his feet as opposed to getting lazy and using a double forearm guard.
Yeah, big absolutely time. Go on, Dan. Sorry, mate. Go on, mate.
It is just the way you have just sold it even more there. Now, if anyone's not seen either of them fight, you can go and check out the fights now on YouTube from last time. We do still have tickets available for the evening. Going on the door, they are only £35. It's history. It's only the second ever sanctioned show. Get down to Liverpool, but that's not all where it ends. There is massive plans. 2026. You've your calendars are. It's already filled up halfway through next year at least, isn't it, Mr. Undeniable? Yeah. There's prize fighters kicking off. There's different countries, and then there's all stuff with WCU as well. But let's start with a prize fighter, man. And I've been hearing that there's some big names heading into that.
The issue is, mate, the names are almost too big that it might cause some conflicts along the way. So trying to be diplomatic. I mean, let's be straight about it. There's a lot of BKFC lads wanting on it. Beckwell or Andy Beckwell and I have had a few conversations, and I'm as straight as they come. Really, I'm not going to try and poach a fighter behind anyone's back. Andy's been quite sound as well. He's just said, "Look, mate, just speak to me first. If I've got no plans for them imminently, then let's make it happen." So there's good bits that can happen there. It's interesting because cruiserweight's such a broad weight category. So, you get people that probably cut to light heavy that want to get into it. You got people that cut from heavyweight down. You got the lads that sort of walk around. So it's a nice wide ranging category. But there's a couple of names, I think, actually from the BKB as opposed to BKFC that I would tip as favourites if we get it over the line. There's a lot of work to do between now and the 20th of February to get that to happen. But we've also, so I won't say too much, but the organisation in Italy who wants to do the sanctioned hybrid show over there, they sponsor a Serie A team, so they've got deep pockets. So the conversation with them is, if we can get this over the line and we can almost tip a couple of favourites for the cruiserweight prize fighter, they will hold a slot in Italy for a main event. the hybrid will be an undercard to a WBC world title boxing, because you can split it in Europe. So there'll be a half pro hybrid and a half pro boxing card in Italy.
Yeah.
So that's going to be really interesting, because the winners basically guaranteed a big fight in Italy for decent money, and obviously a trip abroad. So that's exciting. But like I said, there's a lot of moving parts. I've done prize fighters before in the unlicensed scene, and people drop out all the time. So it's getting people that are flexible to contract negotiations and whatever else. So we'll get there. We will get there. The idea is 28th of February. It might move a week either side, but it'll come.
Yeah, I spoke with Bakewell yesterday, and he said, well, we're going to jump on the comms for the Battle of Bolton stuff now, which is on Notorious TV. And he did mention about allowing BKFC fighters to transition between the hybrid scene. It gives them a chance to keep the knuckles warm as well if there's nothing there for them. Because at the minute, the BKFC are exactly littered with shows over here. They are still in a building process themselves. But there is other good names there. So if it does come off, then brilliant. 28th of February. So what location is that going to be? Because if it's Manchester, I'm sure Bowlers is already Liam Harrison on that date. So it's not Bowlers, I know that.
Well, we have been talking to Bowlers, but it might not be the 28th of Feb if we were to go to Bowlers. Yeah. We had a catch up with Victoria Warehouse this week. That's a possibility.
Yeah.
That would be my preference, but we need to do something bigger than just a prize fighter to justify the cost. And then there's a couple of other bits. We've been talking to Middleton Arena, which isn't exactly Manchester City Centre, but I quite like that venue. That could work.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of bits and pieces. Or if it wasn't to be Manchester, I do really like the Grand Central Dome that Stefan did Bad to the Bone in. It's almost got like an amphitheatre type vibe. But we need... I want somewhere with like maybe 2,500 capacity to really try and push ourselves. And I say that as our last show that maybe only did 400 or 500, but I think if you're not going to push yourself, you want to attract the big names. To attract the big names, you need big venues. To get the big venues, you need the ticket sales. So that's what I said. There's lots and lots of moving parts, but I like Manchester. Manchester's a nice day out for everyone. It's not expensive to fly over to if we get the international fighters too as well. So there's that's the preference.
Absolutely. It's the best city in the world, man. So I love it. So it's Italy. I did have a holiday booked for the date that you are going there, but me and my missus have now changed the holiday. So I will be in Italy for the 29th of May, which is a Friday. So everybody stay locked in for announcements on that. But just to move away to new cities, you have mentioned Germany. Is Germany locked in? Can you give us an update on that?
So Ferrari and I have a meeting on Thursday evening with TBL, who you may be familiar with, the bare knuckle organization, and a professional boxing promoter in Germany. Again, the idea is that we're going to start to get some of the undeniable lads that don't fancy bare knuckle to transition into pro boxing. So we're going to do something similar over there, potentially a road to TBL. So we'll have amateur hybrid, pro boxing, maybe some hybrid K1 as a joint enterprise. TBL, we're planning 28th of February for their next bare knuckle show, but they're pushing it to the middle of the year. So that'll give us a gap between 20th of February and the 29th of May, where Italy is going to take place to try and squeeze Germany in. But that will probably be under the undeniable name as opposed to under a German name or something in between. But that will be centered around the pro hybrid as an undercard. But we want Roman Stahl to make his pro boxing debut in Germany. That's what we've been working towards. Roman's like a baby brother to me and a lot of the lads. So I want to really push his pro boxing career. He deserves the opportunity, and that's what he wants to do. So yeah, no set details, but we should know more tomorrow night. We've got a couple of venues. It's difficult when you don't speak the language to try and do everything remotely. So the TBL thing's been a new introduction to the scene as of the start of last week. So I would say sometime around the end of March, we'd be looking for Germany.
Lovely. And they will be the usual dotted locations around the UK and Ireland. To move on, Team Undeniable, you've had a lot of your brothers out recently. Jacob Bradshaw, Rory McCarthy, Andrew Patterson, Roman Stahl himself, who's bagged himself a huge opportunity on the Guerrilla Promotions card in the prize fighter there. So let's just start with Roman first, because you just said he's like a little brother now. He's got this massive opportunity. Just give us a little insight to your relationship with Roman and what you want to achieve going forward.
Yeah, so Roman, I met at TBL. We got our hands wrapped together, and then Roman's opponent got arrested outside for doing donuts in the car. Like, he was firing a gun, hanging out the car, and doing donuts in the car park, and got scooped before he was due to fight Roman. And then I just got this message off Roman on Instagram one day being like, I want to fight. I'll pay for my own flights and accommodation. I just want to fight. Can I come over and fight on WCU? And then the rest, as they say, is history. And he was on for about a year, asking me to manage him, and I said, mate, I'm trying to focus on my own fight, and I don't want to let you down. And then when the undeniable stuff came about, he was the first one that we kind of really got on board, and we've just tried to push him, mate. The issue for Roman is he's in Germany, good and bad, in that he deserves all the opportunities in the world. He funds so much himself just to get those opportunities, and something will eventually come. So the Guerrilla Promotions, he's seen it. We were trying to get him on the Prize Fighter for Edges. So he's not actually on the Prize Fighter. He's fighting Aaron Egan as like an undercard to the Prize Fighter, but at the same weight. So my understanding from the promoter is if there's a dropout on the Prize Fighter, Roman and Aaron will fight on the same night to get an entrance space into the Prize Fighter. So they'd have 4 fights in one night if they got to the final. So, and then after that would probably be his last unlicensed fight. But the Guerrilla Promotions, you know, that's worth its weight in gold because Darren Till's associated with it. So just getting a slot on that card to boost his socials is the one, really. So, but it's both good and bad because he wants to do pro boxing, but I think he could be untouchable in bare knuckle given the right opportunity. It's getting the right opportunity, mate, because let's be straight about it. BKB or BKFC aren't going to want to pay flights and accommodation for fighters and coaches from someone in Germany who's not got a massive social media profile. But you might get a massive social media profile from Guerrilla Promotions and then never look back and be like, I'm not going to do pro boxing, I'll do something else. Who knows? So I think the world's his oyster, mate. He's 6'5", he's 79 kilograms, amateur boxing background, bad to the bone European champ, technical Soviet style. You know, he's got everything in his favor and he's young. So what's not to like? Just gotta keep pushing him, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fair to say that he is the full package. So hopefully he can get a spot on a BKFC Italy card or something like that off the back of this Guerrilla Promotions, because it is going to be a massive platform. IFL TV and all the gang will be there for that. All the big boys will be there for that. Rory McCarthy, he's was on a good run this year, short notice wins, and then he stepped in with who is very well known in the glove game, and he just sort of shone the levels at the weekend, didn't he? But Rory's as game as they come, and let's just speak about Rory and give him his flowers for a minute, Steve.
Yeah, so I'm really bad at Welsh names. I'm gonna say Geraint, but I don't think it is Geraint. But when BKB signed him, like I was the first commenting below the post. I remember on Facebook because I'd followed his pro boxing career. And I'm a bit OCD about boxing, so I was like, that's class. He's gonna be fantastic. And then yeah, basically Rory got offered the fight and said yes in about 2 seconds flat. And he went down and he tried, mate. You know, the Trigon is, as I well know, a daunting place. He's in a back garden, in someone's battlester's back garden. Rory, he won't mind me saying, he's not the most technical of boxers in the world. So he had a puncher's chance, I think would be safe to say. And it just didn't go his way. I thought he clipped him with a left hook in sort of 3/4 of the way through the first round, and I was like, oh, there it is. But it just wasn't to be. You know, Geraint, the straight shots just pay dividends, really. So speaking to Rory, he wants to come down a weight class or a lot of weight classes, which has probably been a long time coming. I think probably, mate, like for all of us, it was a bit of an eye opener, really. You know, you go from shows where you're the big fish in the little pond, and it's not his own fault. He was the big fish in the little pond. He beat everyone that was put in front of him. Then all of a sudden you're into a bit of the unknown, really. Trained his heart out, gave it his all, and you know, fortune favours the brave. But he was back on work on Sunday, I think, cutting hair, so he's all right. Got paid, he's back in work, and he's ready to go again in the distant future.
Yeah, so it's a sound guy, and I managed to get a.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Dan, go on, mate.
Go on, mate.
All right, now, so just going to say, I managed to get a good chat in with Rory. Mate, I'm terrible at pronunciations. Just ask these fellas when we talk about the Octagon fighters. I mess it up every single week. I'm sorry, mate. If you're watching this, I'm sorry. But yeah, got a good chatting with him on the first show. It was a really sound guy. I was messaging Brian, and I was messaging Brian when he was at the BKB show in Cardiff, and he sent me a picture of the arena, and the arena looked mint. To be fair, the arena looks sick. So it's a good show, and like you say, fortune favours the brave.
It doesn't, and look, Rory, it's amusing for me to see Rory's joke. Like, we always joke about it, but like, in 2011, Rory and I were in car parks scrapping outside nightclubs. You know, I remember the day there was like, we came outside of a nightclub, and I'll never forget it, one of our mates' 18th birthdays, and there was about 20 lads, and there was about 4 of us, and then they were all like, get back in the bus, and Rory like, nah, we'll see what the crack is.
Yes.
And then we got reunited about 10 years later in the boxing scene, and then we've just been at it ever since, really traveling the world having scraps. So it's quite cool, and obviously it's probably a friendship that will never die, and it's been rejuvenated by combat, really.
Nice, mate,
lovely. Up the fucking Irish. That's how we do it. Jacob Bradshaw as well was out on one of the biggest bare knuckle promotions in the world, Gromda, last week, and that's another one. Fortune favours the brave. He's had a good run, bad to the bone champion, similar to Roman Stoll. Let's just give him his flowers for a minute, big man.
So close, but yet so far, mate. The story of Jacob's life, I think, for a lot of his fights, like put it this way, Jacob had his first bare knuckle fight pretty much 12 months ago to the day. He's 5 fights later. His first fight was against Roman Stoll for his first ever bare knuckle. You know, which is a mental debut in itself. You know, he's fought Mason Shaw. He's fought Luke Fleming on bad to the bone. You know, he went over and fought, I think it's Andre Wegerle, his name is, who was meant to be the next big thing in Germany, and then he's just been to Gromda. So he's had 5 fights, 2 wins, 3 losses, but the quality of opposition that man has faced is probably the hardest first 5 fights in anyone's bare knuckle journey in history. And I know people will probably be criticizing me when I say that, but like, if you actually look at that quality, you know, Mason Shaw was probably his easiest fight, and Mason Shaw is no divvy. Give Mason his ground. You know, he fought on BKFC, he fought Connor Cook. You know, he's been around. So, and Jacob's just one of those, mate. He suffers from not having a big social media following, and he suffers from being in a different country than the mainland, because he looks the part. He can fight every opponent he drops. It's just he just tries to go for the kill a little bit too much, probably respectfully to Jacob, but. I think for Jacob, if he keeps his head screwed on and focuses on his training, I still think Jacob could genuinely be the face of bare knuckle, especially when you've got Connor Cook probably in his last 2 or 3 years. I don't know. Connor Cook is phenomenal still to this very day. You know, he's 38, I think I've seen in his recent interview. So I don't know what his plans are, but you know, if he gets a world title, European title this weekend, goes on to a world title, he might only have a couple of years left. Jacob could easily fill those shoes, and that's not me undervaluing Connor Cook, because I think Connor Cook's one of the best fighters ever come out of Ireland, but I think Jacob's that good as well. It's just having the right people around you, making the right choices, and taking the right fights.
Absolutely, and he does have the right people around him. And one of the people with him that was out there with him is Mr. Andrew Patterson. Now, he's another one that does it all: boxing, hybrid, bare knuckle, and Brit slap. He is as game as a badger. Now, let's give Mr. Patterson his flowers this time.
Oh man, I can't give him his flowers because he's just on slap fighting on Saturday night. That's insane. Like, can I just say something for the camera? Right, the number one rule of slap fighting is if you slap first, chances are you're going to win. Right? Andrew Patterson wins the coin toss and goes, "You slap me first, mate."
Oh, he didn't. No, he didn't. Did he?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Oh. That's something that a bird would do, that. Yeah, it's something that a bird would do. What the fuck?
I know.
Andy, man, fucking hell.
I know. But I actually think, I don't really know the rules of slap fighting, to be fair. I don't think Andy did either, bless him. But he's fallen over from the slap. I actually think he's hit the barrel on his way down. I think if he hadn't hit the barrel on his way down, he probably would have got back up and gave it a go. Yeah. Well, they would have won or not. Fuck knows me. I don't understand the rules. It's definitely not for me, but it was an experience. But But Andy. I did some rounds of Andy, probably again about 12 months to this day, and I mean I was probably going about 20% and I battered in black and blue. And not long after my last fight in September, we did some rounds and it was 50-50. If I'm honest, he's come on leaps and bounds, and the only way he's come on leaps and bounds is by taking tough fights.
Yeah.
He's got a good coaching team around him. He's taking tough fights. He's never said no. And he's at the level he's at now. What I think's next for Andy is probably Gronda, to be fair, I think, is what he's signed for in March next year. But I think outside that, Andy would like to. The ideal scenario is that we have Roman and we have Jacob and we have Andy, all European bad to the bone champions at the same time. I think that's achievable. I think Andy is probably at a British or European bad to the bone level, if I'm honest. Even if someone's technically better than him, Andy he's a nice guy, but I don't think people quite appreciate how little quit that guy's got in him. So I would love to see Andy fight Brad Donovan. I'll just say it live on screen. I think that's the fight to make for Bad to the Bone. I think there's no way Brad's sleeping Andy Patterson. I don't think Andy's sleeping Brad. And I think they'll go until one of them quits, which I don't think will happen very easily. If Brad's got a full camp and Andy's got a full camp, that's the fight to make, in my opinion. But again, Andy's in Ireland, so it's justifying the cost.
Yeah, and it's about getting the big boys there as well. If Conor Cook wins tomorrow, that might help spearhead it and lift it a little bit more. But they're the people who have been out. I've not missed anyone out, have I? That I'm thinking. I don't think I've missed anybody.
Not recently, yeah.
There is one coming up again this Saturday. Derby, BKFC. He's taking on the stalwart Ricky Nelder, who is looking to not end his career on defeat. He's having one big last run. He's trained with Simon Haycock down at Fitness Factory Birmingham. It's a big test for Danny, isn't it? But Danny is used to big tests. He was ranked high in his Muay Thai days. He's the comeback king. We witnessed that war that he had, Alex, at Undeniable Fight Night 1. So, yeah, let's just talk about Danny and his thoughts with his fight with Ricky Nelder.
I get asked this a lot. And Danny's probably one of those other ones that I think I got judged quite a lot for signing, because Danny notoriously maybe had a bit of history of not giving it 100%. I think Danny, to be fair to him, wasn't looked after by a lot of the coaches he's had before. I don't think people took care of him. I think promoters mugged him off a little bit, jumping in last minute, taking tough fights, getting beat. And to be fair, if you know you're getting the piss taken out of you by a promoter, you're not going to get back on your feet after you get dropped, are you really? But about 2 years ago, he took a last-minute prize fighter on the prize fighter with Kyle Parr, Dan McGraffin, and Conrad were all on that prize fighter, I think. And he did really well against Kyle Parr. Close fight, actually, to be fair. And it was just a bit of a rejuvenation for Danny as well. He started taking his training really seriously, tried to take his diet seriously. It's still up and down. And I tell you what, mate, the graph that lad puts in, he spars all the time. He's come on leaps and bounds. And I'm just glad he's getting a shot, mate. Like I've had to do a lot of convincing to get Danny that shot. I think it's safe to say if you spoke to Andy Beckwell, he probably wasn't the first choice for that fight out of everyone that Undeniable had. We talked about Rory, we talked about Conrad, we talked about Danny Ledbetter. But I just said, look, Danny is not what everyone thinks he used to be. Give him a shot. He won't ask for loads of money. Just give him a shot and see. And Beckwell, to be fair to him, gave Danny a shot. And I think if the Ledbetter I know shows up, I think that's a close fight, a very close fight. If the Ledbetter of old shows up and pops up out of nowhere, it's over in 10 seconds. That's my honest assumption. I love Danny. Danny's been one of my main sparring partners. He's one of the first guys I ever sparred in my whole entire life. He's brought me on loads, never said no to anything, helped our show out loads, helped the hybrid show out loads, helped the bare knuckle lads out loads. There's not a bigger team player than Danny. So I hope it goes well for him. And if it doesn't, I hope at least he gives a good account of himself, because he deserves it. Him and his family deserve it for what he's been through on the fight game and what he's given to the fight game. I think if social media properly existed when Danny get into fighting and someone took care of his social media, he probably could be a Luke Dyson type character, because he's fought everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go, Danny boy. And as we know, records are for DJs in the BKFC and especially in the bare knuckle world. So if he puts on a war with Ricky Nelder, Bakewell will reward him with enough of an opportunity. He keeps doing that. Paul O'Sullivan, Ben Lowe, they keep getting opportunities because they just go and fight their heart out. And that is one thing we do know, isn't it, Alex, that Danny goes and fights his heart out.
Yeah, definitely. Danny's a tough cookie. I mean, when I saw David Liss making the walk, I was looking at this big European fella and I was thinking, bloody hell. So I was thinking, bloody hell. And then Danny walks out, unfazed, walking out to the Glen, up, dives in the eyes again. And then I was like, bloody hell, yes, lad. And then he comes in, David took a bit of a lead in the fight. And then Danny he just weathered the storm. He just didn't look arsed. He didn't look arsed, and then eventually ended up making David quit on the stool. I mean, I think he messed up his jaw or his teeth or something like that. I remember David was in. Yeah. It was right by here, but I remember just taking a look at both corners, and Danny just straight face, just just kind of breathing heavy a bit, but he didn't seem arsed in the slightest. While David looked knackered, and David looked knackered, and Danny's just there like, I couldn't really hear anything from the corner, obviously, but Danny just didn't look phased whatsoever. Come back out, straight face, pushing the pace, coming forward, doos, big heavy shots, and then made David retire on the stool. And I thought, bloody hell, he's one tough cookie. And when I saw he got. Now, bear in mind, I don't really know much about bare knuckle. I watch a few fights. I watch at best. I don't know it. But when I saw that he was signed for BKFC, I thought that's a really good signing because of his style, it was coming forward. Yeah.
It's that Muay Thai style, Alex. That walk forward. It can be a detriment to him sometimes, but also it can be a blessing. They just need a little bit of movement in the bare knuckle. If you don't move your head in that bare knuckle, it's fucking lights out, baby. But Danny has boxed Dan McGrath recently, and that wall that we're just referring to on Undeniable Fight Night 1, that's probably the perfect warm-up fights for this bare knuckle opportunity, especially the way that hybrid fight went, because at points I thought he was going to fucking stop it, Nath, and then Danny just pulled it out of nowhere, peppered him, fucked up his mouth, and made him quit. The big tough European that looked staunch walking in. Little old Danny made him quit. So yeah, good luck for this weekend, Danny boy. But just to leave it, Nathan, anything else you want to add on the hybrid stuff before we leave it?
No, I mean, I'm really excited to see what happens. It's going to be a great fight night. Speaking to you, Stephen, speaking to the fighters beforehand and just getting that vibe that this is a real opportunity. I suppose one thing I wanted to ask, and I suppose the best time to ask is now because we're wrapping up, but Steve, in terms of this sport and hybrid boxing, it's sort of in its infancy, especially as something legitimate as this organization does. How exciting is that you're not going to get like a McGregor, but there's a chance really for someone to maybe step out and actually become a bit of a star and a draw in hybrid boxing. And it's probably going to be under your promotion, under your banner. How does that feel?
I am very excited for it. It's a tough sport at the minute. It's a real tough sport because it's tarnished by what has come before, the same as the bare knuckle has as well. So it's just weathering the storm. I don't think people quite appreciate how expensive and how much we have to jump through to actually be a regulated commission. The BoxRec thing is great, but you could, in theory, go on BoxRec without a commission, generally speaking, when you look at some of the promotions that's going on. But we've got to have a ringside doctor, we've got to have ambulances, we've got to have paramedics, you've got to have the whole shebang, cut teams, whatever else, it's when people come at it from an unlicensed lens, it's never going to work for them. So that's why I really like the lads that have come back, because they're buying into this is the real deal. So I do see other promotions and they're putting, ex-pro boxers, ex-Commonwealth champs on these hybrid shows. I just don't know how the longevity in that works. I don't know where the money comes from. I don't know whether people will get paid. And that's not me bad-mouthing or anything. That's just a real risk for me, whereas we're really trying to build from the ground up. We're going to try and create some form of superstars like I said, Zed Williams, Zach Williams, whatever you want to call him. That could be the next superstar in this, like I said, with Miles Roper, even if it doesn't go down the bare knuckle route, if he takes his time, that could be something for him as well. In fact, even like Josh Robinson out of the blue nowhere, with his K1 background and stuff like that, Leo, there's real growth there for those guys, but they've got to buy into it. They've got to start creating their own stuff as well. We can only do so much, but yeah, it's very exciting. Definitely very exciting.
Absolutely. Well, everybody, listen, tickets are still on the door. It's £35. There is 15 contests. You will absolutely not be disappointed. 1K, 1 championship bout, 1 feature bare knuckle bout, and 1 hybrid boxing organisation. Middleweight championship bout. It's live on Notorious TV. So if you're not in Liverpool or not in the Northwest, search Undeniable Fight Night on Notorious TV. But Steve, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for taking you a long hour to chat at the start of
Pleasure.
fight week. I know it was busy, and I know you've had a very, very stressful day, to say the least.
All good. Pleasure, boys, and thanks for your help so far.
Cheers, Steve.
Thank
Been a
you.
pleasure, mate.
Boys,
See you later, lads.
take care. See you.
Bye-bye.
See you Saturday.